I've been here for about 5 years. I started off as the receptionist, came through community jobs. Actually, I started off as a client before even being a receptionist, um, and used their services about 6 years ago, fleeing my own situation. That's where that journey started, and then I got involved with WorkSource, who gave me this community jobs opportunity to come and be a receptionist here, um, which was odd because I had never told anybody about my stay here or my situation or anything. So that was pretty cool. It was a 6-month program where I got to do reception and WorkSource would pay my wages. We still utilize that program today here at Turning Point. But after my 6 months was up, I had to try and find another job, and an advocate just happened to quit, so I was offered that position. And of course, I took it. I did the overnight shift for about 4 years, and then was working 2 jobs full time, both overnight shifts, and then I was promoted to program coordinator. About a year after that to deputy director, and since Cheryl's resignation back in May, I'm now the acting executive director. The board is still deciding on what they want to do. They're kind of looking at the job descriptions closely to see what would best, help Turning Point, if we want to just put me into the executive director role or bring somebody else in. But yeah. So Turning Point's actually the third largest domestic violence shelter in Washington State. We sleep 54 people. We have 54 beds. And in Seattle, that's the largest one. They have 57 beds. So we're right up there. The funding isn't quite the same. Seattle, the funding is based on population, on county population, and Mason County is obviously a lot smaller than King County. So even though it doesn't make sense, King County gets all this money to support their 57-bed shelter, where Mason County gets a little fraction of money. So we rely heavily on grants and then community members too for donations and that sort of thing. And we have 2 fundraisers every year at the golf tournament out there at Alderbrook. That's coming up on August 4th. And then Power of the Purse is another one where it's an auction, and they auction off name brand purses for very, very cheap.
Now, I'm not following any order here in the interview, but I did notice that anybody can donate. You can do that online.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed you can do one time all the way up to monthly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How many people do you have donating in any given time? Or any way to tell?
Well, I don't have those numbers, but I do know we do get a lot of reoccurring donations from church members and that sort of thing. Our financial coordinator, Marcia, is the one to ask about that one. I know that, like, in our newsletter, we send that out. It's been every other month, but we are going to be moving that to a quarterly thing just to be more cost effective. And we would send envelopes, asking what they can give. And it's not just money. I mean, people that bring in food or clothing, non-perishable foods, for sure, bedding, that sort of stuff. The only things we don't really care to take are knickknacks. We just don't have much storage space for knickknacks. We like to send our clients off with like a set of dishes or something when they do leave and they find housing on their own. So we're always taking those kind of items. So
getting involved, since we're kind of on that, what ways can people get involved?
there's plenty of ways you can volunteer. We always need child care volunteers. Of course, there's a background check for any volunteer position. There's a background check if you're going to be working with clients or seeing clients. There's going to be a background check. But We always need help with our yards, the maintenance and stuff. We don't have anybody or funding to do that. Co-facilitate support groups and that sort of thing. That's another biggie. And then the fundraising, helping out in that way is always a need also.
So how does one do so?
They can just call up the office and ask to speak with Tara. She's our volunteer coordinator. Also does prevention advocacy. But she is the one that you can actually fill out an application on our website and then send it in to us, and we can run the background check and everything, and then set up an interview and see where we can best use you at. Like, what is your passion? If you don't like kids, we don't want you doing childcare. But yeah, if you love to garden, maybe that would be the thing. So we try to work with, what people want to do, what they're passionate about, so that they have fun.
Okay. Now, you recently changed your name, but it's more than just a name change.
Right.
Let's talk about what you're offering, or what's the difference between what Turning Point was and what it is now?
So Turning Point, when we were first established, it was just the domestic violence shelter. Well, we had a domestic violence center before the shelter, even many years ago. But since my time in being here, it's been the shelter, and we would get money through the state for domestic violence to help domestic violence victims. In October of last year, PASS, who was the sexual assault program here in Mason County, they closed their doors and we took over. So since October, we have done 106 sexual assault intakes. And that's not to say that there's been that many assaults in that amount of time, but at some point in their life, they have been assaulted. So that's just important to know, because I don't want to, make it sound worse than it already is. This is stuff that comes up while doing just a shelter screening intake, and so we offer them services and try to get them, into therapy if they want, and that sort of thing. But so when we thought of the name change, it was, we offer more than just domestic violence services. Like I said, the sexual assault program. We also have a youth advocate. We're going into schools and working on prevention. That's been a lot of our focus, is prevention lately. We've actually got a couple different curriculums for a couple different age groups, of course. Hoping to start up in the 3rd grade. I think it's at Grapeview in the fall. No, it's Hood Canal, actually. We have an MOU, and Grapeview is interested as well, from what I understand. So that one's called Care for Kids is the curriculum we use for that. So I'm excited to get the prevention going, and hopefully get the healthy relationships going. We've done a lot of that in the junior high. We've done like skits with North Mason. We've had a lot of fun with that. We've just got a fabulous team that just goes all out in every way possible, and they have a lot of fun with that.
So can you touch upon some of the services? You've got your 24-hour access to crisis services.
Yeah.
24-hour. There's 24-hour on a lot of these little bullet points.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that? Tell
Okay.
people what you guys do.
Yeah, so we are manned here 24 hours a day. Like I said, at one point I was the overnight advocate for 4 years. So we want somebody here in case there's a crisis in the middle of the night. We want somebody, if law enforcement needs to bring somebody, obviously we want to be here and give them a place to sleep. Also, for like a sexual assault, if that occurs and the hospital calls us, we want to be able to send an advocate. So we have on-call advocates. So the night advocate would call our on-call person that's, for that night to send her up there to the hospital if they want her there, so that the client doesn't have to be alone, at that time. And then with that too, if there's paperwork that needs to be filled out and that sort of thing, in a trauma situation, you're not quite thinking clearly. So just to have somebody to help guide you along, the paperwork process and that sort of thing. We just try to be there and hold their hand through it, Let's see. So the advocacy-based counseling, we like to meet with our clients at least once a week. Their caseloads aren't too bad now. We actually have enough advocates. We were really short-staffed for a long time, and through getting the sexual assault program, we were accredited and now receive funds to run that program. So that meant we were able to bring on additional staff. So our advocates carry a small caseload, and they meet with them at least once a week, more if they need it. If the client's feeling like they need it more, then we can do that too. And we kind of just try to help them, try to figure out what their goals are and what resources we can offer them. And some will take the help and some won't. So we can't force anybody to do anything that they're not ready or willing to do, but we do our best to provide the resources. That's what we can do. The emergency housing, so they have up to 90 days to be here. If let's say a client is ready to get into her own place, and the place isn't going to be ready for another 2 weeks or something, we're not going to kick them out. If it's kind of a case-by-case basis, if you are doing everything you're supposed to be doing and showing that you're really trying, then we might be able to extend and try to work with the client even more in that way. The legal advocacy that we provide, we're not attorneys, so we can accompany clients to court. We can help them fill out the paperwork for protection orders, help file for divorce, that sort of thing. That, and then, like I said about the medical advocacy, accompany to the hospital and to appointments. We also offer support groups. Our support groups, we have a sexual assault support group, and that is that one is kind of, all of them have curriculum, of course, but the sexual assault one, it's one that we would rather you come in and go to the first one before you go to the second one and that sort of thing, because it kind of gets into deeper stuff. And you don't want to jump into your very first group and it just be like a total shock and it'd be awful. So that's the only one that's really set like that, though. The rest of them, we offer DV support groups. We have a assertiveness and self-care support group. And then we also have an NA support group, a women's only NA. That's on Sunday nights, and that's so a lot of clients might be, struggling with addiction, or their partner might have been. So it's helpful to get some insight without having to leave the building in fear of your abuser being out there. So so we're proud of all of those. And then in the school time, our youth advocate does like homework club for the kids too. She works really closely with the youth. So, and that's something that's huge. And other than prevention education, I don't really see that on here. It's something we might have left out, but that's something. When I was a client here, they didn't have a youth advocate, so I had myself and my 3 kids here. And my kids didn't get any services. It wasn't until later on when they referred us to BHR, which at that time wasn't running well, and I didn't feel that it was a good use of time. But it's really nice to see Alex, our youth advocate, to be able to work one-on-one with kids and kind of just go over what they feel, and just they're kind of forgotten about, the majority of the time when mom's going through this situation or dad's going through this situation, the kids kind of get put on the back burner. So that's one of the most exciting things for me, I think, that that we're able to provide that. And then too, a lot of there's this misconception out there that it's only women that are allowed to be helped here. That's untrue. We do have quite a few male clients. They are not allowed to stay in the shelter, unfortunately, at this time. But we do have a lot of male clients that we help with just basic advocacy and legal advocacy. We do understand that it's not always the man beating up on the woman. So, yeah, I think that's something really important to let the public know, you know. I've heard that. Even just in the community, with people that we partner with closely, they didn't know that we do accept male clients too.
You said that you first started as a client.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're dealing with victims, do you, having gone through everything,
Mm-hmm.
you rely on that to help somebody along?
I feel that I feel it helps me empathize with the clients. Everybody's circumstance is different, and you know, no two cases are alike. But I do feel that it helps me to be able to relate to the client. The majority of our staff are survivors. Not saying that they've been here in the shelter. My case is pretty awesome. I'm blessed to be working here after, you know, being a client. I really feel like God played a huge part in that. But yeah, I keep the memories fresh in my mind, the feelings that I felt at the time, and I see them in the clients here too. So I think that it makes me be able to do my job well. And, you know, it keeps the passion alive. I've been working here for quite a few years, and I'm no less passionate. If anything, I'm more passionate now because I really feel that, you know, that it's possible, and I get a witness the changes in people. They come in here broken and just no idea where to go or, you know, who to turn to, and to watch them get a foundation going and get a job and get their own place. It's just an amazing to be self-sufficient and watch that. It's just beautiful.
I was perusing the website,
Mm-hmm.
Pointe.org, and there's a lot of information on there. And I looked at almost everything in there, saying, "Boy, I want to ask about this. I want to ask about that." The thing that did stick out in my mind is you do provide services to Native Americans, and you don't really. I didn't even think that was an issue. I mean, is there what's the right word? A lack of services for the tribes?
As far as I know, they don't have any shelters. They do have advocates. We work closely with the Skokomish and the Squaxin tribes. All of our advocates are very friendly. But yeah, when they need a place for one of their clients, then we welcome them in. Just
another person, doesn't matter.
No, I mean, we try to be culturally, you know, sensitive, and it is kind of hard, and there's a lot of training that goes with it, you know, for cultural competency and recognizing, you know, some beliefs are different than others and that sort of thing. But yeah, everybody is equals, you know. They're in a situation and they need help too. So why wouldn't we help them? One of the things that I'm really super proud about too right now is we're bringing on 2 more bilingual advocates. That is a huge need. That's been a gap. So yeah, our shelter manager, actually, the one we're having a little transition phase, not just with me, but our shelter manager is moving, so we're putting our one bilingual advocate that we have on staff into that role, which I think that's going to be a huge help. We've had many clients that I can't understand, and it's really frustrating because I want to help them, and I know that they're just wanting to talk. They're just wanting to talk like me and you, and they can't. Or they have their young children, and that's not fair to try to relay. You can't do that. So, yeah, I'm bringing on a full-time bilingual who also does legal advocacy, and a part-time for the nighttime, so that we will always have a bilingual staff person available. So that's something that I'm super excited about, because I know that's been a gap for a long time. So, yeah.
One thing that I guess is unique about the shelter is you allow pets.
We do. We actually have a kennel outside. They don't have to stay outside. They can come in. But let's say, you know, mom needs to go to work. We don't want the animal left in the room to tear up or whatever. So there's the pet kennel outside.
Okay, the
Yeah.
reasoning around that is...
They're just like your children for so many people. And then you have the support, you know, the support animals. What am I trying to think of? Therapy dogs.
There, yeah.
Yeah. I know when I came up here, I didn't know that you could bring your dog, and I left mine, and that was a huge traumatic experience for me and my kids, because they grew up with him. He's 13 years old now. My dog is. So like that was a big deal. It was like leaving one of my children behind. I cried for days. So yeah, another awesome thing.
So you also provide cell phones. It says 911 cell phones for survivors.
Yeah.
Explain that process.
Okay, so we're always accepting cell phones. A lot of people have these old flip phones that they no longer use, or they upgrade their iPhone, and so they'll just drop them off here, and we wipe them, and then even if they don't have a SIM card or anything, they will always dial 911. So if a client comes in, she doesn't have a phone, or she's scared that he might be tracking her through her phone, she can do away with that one and then just have one for 911. Some of the phones, if there is a SIM card in it, then they can get reactivated, but primarily we just use the 911 feature. So
You accept any cell phone?
we've had the big brick ones
Yeah.
donated. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think there were any of those around.
I was surprised. I know, I wanted to send it to like
The museum.
a museum, yeah, a historic museum.
Let's see here. Oh, here's another computer access.
hmm So the advocates will work, like if they're job searching or something, that could be one of your sessions, your 1 hour. Sometimes it's 2 hours, 3 hours. But yeah, we try to help them with job search and house search and that sort of thing. So when you're with your advocate, you have that that ability to do your internet searches. We do have free Wi-Fi in the back for the clients. We had a communal computer that would break every week. The kids would find their way into their room and break the computer, so it became too costly to keep repairing it. So now it's just, you know, if you need help, come on, let's schedule an appointment, and you can have access to the computer. But we do have that free Wi-Fi, and a lot of people have smartphones now, so they can just do it that way too.
So, I mean, you said that every situation is different,
Mhm.
but in general, when somebody comes to you, they have nothing, right?
Yeah.
And you're trying to help them make the steps to get back to where they were.
Yeah. Or better than what they
better.
were, yeah.
Better.
Yeah.
Definitely better. Okay, was that everything? I think that was everything that I wanted to cover. Is there something that you wanted to talk about?
No, I just thought you might like to know just some of the numbers for this last fiscal year. We housed 364 people. So 200 females, 2 males. So the males, if they were of age, they could have been disabled and still been living with mom. So they might have had a handicap of some sort. 162 kids are included in that number. And then we have the non-residential clients, and that came up to 208 this last year. I have a feeling next year it's gonna just grow even more, because we are bringing the awareness into the schools, and we've been doing lots of community outreach, by far lots more here recently, and I just plan to continue that. But yeah, a lot of people get it confused and think that they can't come to the support groups and stuff, or they can't get legal advocacy unless they're living here. That's not true.
Well, that's what non-residential meant.
Yeah.
You just explained it.
That's it.
Okay, you don't reside here at the shelter, but you still need that help.
Yeah, we have several clients, and not everybody that comes in here is broke, and the majority of them, either they were living in poverty before, or the abuser took everything, and left her with nothing, or there's many different situations, but some people do come in and they're well off. They have plenty of money. They've got good jobs. They're just in a really bad position and need help, let's say with the parenting plan or divorce, or because of the abuse. So it really doesn't, domestic violence and sexual assault, it doesn't know any certain type of population. It comes in all forms. So yeah, I think that's about what I have. The other thing is the crisis calls, 799 in this last fiscal year. That's a lot of calls, people calling for help, people calling for resources or crisis intervention. So yeah, we do.
What is the easiest way if somebody needs help? What's the first step?
I would say just make a phone call. Give us a call. Even if we don't have a bed available, let's say they want shelter, they want to find shelter, they can keep calling because our shelter is pretty much always full, and it's a first come first serve. It's we don't have a waiting list. It's really based on severity. So if they want to make the phone call, we can do a shelter screening over the phone. That's not the same thing as an intake. An intake is in person. But we can do a shelter screening and see if they qualify for our services here, and then make an appointment with an advocate to do the intake. And then we can just assess what it is that they need and how we can be helpful.
Okay, and that phone number?
Is 360-426-1216.
Okay. I saw an 800 number.
Oh, gosh, I don't have that one memorized.
Oh, no, that's okay. 877-923-1212.
1212, I hear that. And then we also have on our website, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but on the turningpoint.org, you can also email in if you're trying to be, a little less conspicuous. And just, however is safe to do it. Even if you just want to call and safety plan with somebody, that's what we're here for. So.
And somebody just wants to talk about things, and that's another.
We can do that too, to an extent. So there's one person on staff overnight, and so we have to be available to answer. If the police bring somebody to the door or something, but. Yeah, if they want to call and just, talk things out and say, I'm thinking about leaving or that sort of thing, then we can definitely do that. If they're wanting like mental health services, like a counselor, we're not certified counselors, we're not mental health professionals, so we would make that referral, give them the phone number and that sort of thing.